Dr. John.
Kaylee, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, tell me a little bit why you're here today.
I'm here today because in the past couple months I've been feeling like really high levels of anxiety. Like it's more than just like having some worries or being stressed out. Like it's definitely like affecting me a lot more than usual. I definitely want to try to find a way to help take care of this.
Okay, so what do you think is causing you to have these anxieties exactly?
I think a lot of it has to do with school, and I suddenly just feel like I always have to be working on homework. I always have to do a really good job, like be perfect at everything. But then like there's like this little voice that's just like saying like whatever I'm doing isn't enough. Like it's just not. I'm not putting enough work into it, or like I'm gonna get something wrong and it's gonna affect like my grades or something like that.
So you bring up about a voice in your head. Do you think that's any pressure coming from family or friends, or do you think that's just more of your own thinking?
I think a big part of it is that I find myself like comparing my work to what my roommates are doing. So like what my roommates are involved in, like what like their grades on like tests and stuff like that, and then I look at myself and I feel like maybe I'm not as involved as them, or I like got over score in a test, and then I feel like maybe I'm not as good as them, and that I need to like step it up and like be at that level. I definitely don't think it's anything like from my family, like they're very supportive, but I still like feel like I'm not doing in that aspect.
Okay, so define what enough would be according to you. I mean, we only have so many hours within a day, so then we can only do so much for ourselves sometimes.
I think like for me it would be, I don't like, it's hard to like put my finger on what I'm striving for. Like I feel like it's just like this vicious cycle of like I think, oh, I'm not going to do very good in this class, I didn't do good on the test, which means it's going to affect like my GPA, and if I have a bad GPA, I'm not going to get like into this grad school that I want to get into, or I'm not going to get a good job, and that's going to affect me, and then like my career and like my future is all just going to go downhill, and like it's a lot of worries at once, and then I feel like it's just like a slippery slope down like that, and I feel like I need to like have those material, like have the physical aspect of like getting a really good grade, or like having that like completion, instead of like being okay with just like doing average on some things.
Okay, so have you talked to anyone else about this before coming here?
I've tried to talk to my parents about it, but I feel like they try to tell me that like I'm doing enough, and it's like it's not very satisfying to just have them tell me that like I'm doing okay, and it's like I'm doing good, like when I don't feel that way myself.
Okay. So going back to you saying how you tell yourself that you need to do better, or that you should do good on your exams. How are you feeling during those moments when you're actually telling yourself these? Are you feeling angry, sad?
I think part of me like gets angry that I have to pressure myself so much to do well, and then since I feel that way, it just makes me more stressed out and like more anxious about what I'm doing, and then I feel like I always have to be thinking about like what I'm gonna do next when it comes to school, and it's to the point where it's like affecting my social life and like my relationships, and like being able to like let go and like have fun like being in school instead of constantly focusing on homework all the time.
Do you still go out having feel these anxieties? Or how has that affected many of your relationships?
I'd say in the past month, going out and like having a good time with friends has definitely declined. And even if I get to the point where, you know, my roommates do convince me to just like have a Saturday where I don't do any homework or like don't focus on school, I still like find myself like getting distracted from what's going on, or like and thinking about homework even though I'm not actually doing it, and like thinking about my classes and what I should be doing in that time where, you know, I'm trying to be out and like having a good time, but in reality I'm probably not enjoying it as much as I should be.
So what would make you feel like you would enjoy it more?
I think I need to find a way to completely like let go of always focusing on school, and like I know that if I could just take the time to like enjoy the social aspect of like my friends and having them be there and like have fun and like have a good time, that I would enjoy it a lot more, instead of like finding myself just distancing myself from them because all I can think about is school.
So tell me some methods that you've been trying to do to help you calm down your anxieties, or just try to help you actually be able to go back and do your normal daily activities that you do enjoy doing.
I guess what I've tried to do, my roommates have tried to kind of help me out and give me advice, is that if I'm starting to feel anxious and overwhelmed, I kind of, take a break and kind of step away from what I'm doing and just, try to remember that it's not the end of the world if I don't get an assignment done on time. Like, it's not the end of the world if I don't get a perfect grade. But a lot of times I just find myself like, I can only do that for so long, and then I feel like I'm starting to waste time and do that. And I think it's definitely starting to make my roommates like not enjoy being around me as much. So that's also like another thing that's making me stressed out. It's just the cycle of all this stuff going on.
Okay, what about your professors? Have you expressed to them or send them an email letting them know about what's going on just with yourself or maybe the workload that you have?
I haven't talked to any of my professors about that, so maybe that's something I should do. But I'm kind of like afraid that they're not going to be able to help me or like make me feel any better about the like workload that we have and stuff like that.
Why do you feel afraid about not having them accept you?
I guess I'm afraid that maybe it'll be a disappointment, if I and that being a student who has to go to them and like ask for maybe extra time or just express how I'm feeling stressed out about classwork, that they're like not going to think that I can do it or feel that I have the drive to do it, that I'm just starting to be like a lazy student.
So I am going to ask you, if you don't mind, have you ever considered about recording your thoughts about how you are feeling during a moment of feeling anxiety about a certain situation, or have you ever considered doing that?
I haven't. No.
Would you like to do it? I mean, it is time consuming and it does take time out of your hands a little bit, but it'd be good for you to record your thoughts down and reflect back on them when we do meet again in our next session.
Okay, I feel like that could be helpful, and I think if I, look at it as a way that's going to help me in the long run, and even though, it might take up more time, like that does kind of worry me, but I think that it could be a good idea, and then definitely to see like the build-up of like my emotions and stress like up to that point, I guess.
Okay, so let's go over some things that you would like to work on. In regards to yourself, we'll be focusing on you only, and so that when you do leave here, you can also go back and work on it yourself, and when you come back, we'll see if you are able to work on any other things.
Okay. I think one of the biggest things is that I want to feel like comfortable, like not being having to like do work all the time. Like I want to be able to give myself time to, enjoy like my friends and enjoy my social life, and not feel like if I'm not doing schoolwork, like I'm not going to be successful. Obviously, I want to get those thoughts to like start to calm down, and then I think also it might be helpful to find other ways to cope with the high like levels of anxiety, like what I can do to feel better like in that moment if I do start to feel myself becoming more anxious and more stressed out in a certain situation.
Okay. So going back to your first one, it seems like time management is a big thing that you would like to really work on. So how do you think you can come about and try and manage your time a little?
I think that maybe if I do try, because I've tried like scheduling certain times where I won't be doing stuff, and I feel like that doesn't really work, and maybe just, if like the opportunity arises that like I get invited to go out to like coffee with a friend or like lunch with a friend, that I should feel okay being able to do that, and maybe, make sure that I realize that like taking that time out of my day is going to be okay. Like if I'm not doing something in the middle of the day, like it's fine. Like I still have the evening, or like I have scheduled time in between classes where I can do stuff.
What about coping your anxieties?
I'm not exactly sure what I should do.
Okay. Well, one thing I would probably recommend in regards to coping anxiety, maybe have a small notebook or journal with you, and when you are feeling that anxiety or like kicking in, maybe then you could just jot down how you're feeling during that moment,
Okay.
why you're feeling that way, and try to see if you can find the reasons of why you are feeling that way. And then an hour or two later, or whenever your anxiety level has like gone down, go back and record, and then when you're done recording how you're feeling after your anxiety has gone down, then maybe you can reflect on that moment of what was actually going on.
Okay.
So is there anything else you would like to talk about?
I think that's a lot of covering what I've been feeling lately. I guess I think the time management part is going to be my biggest challenge in like the weeks to come, and like being able to, find the time to do those reflections. But I think that if I push myself to do it and use those skills of calming down, that I feel like that should hopefully be better and be able to report good news back at the next session.
Okay. So I want to go back to the voice that has been talking to you, telling you that you should compare yourself to other people. Have you always had that voice?
I think it's started like just this past year in school, and I feel like it might be because we're starting to get to like crucial points in my life where like I need to start making decisions about what I want to do and like what kind of path that I want to take to my future. And I see like other friends of mine who seem to have like these like definite ideas about like what they want to do and like where they're going to go and like what kind of career they want to have. And then I feel like for myself, like I'm always kind of like wishy-washy about it, and like I'm not exactly sure, and that makes me really worried that when it does come to the time where like I need to start making important decisions, that like I'm not going to feel confident in those decisions.
So how do you feel? What emotions are running through you when you have these thinkings? Does it kind of push you down more, or do you feel like does it give you a boost of motivation, or do you feel like you need to find a different kind of motivation?
I don't think it gives me any kind of motivation, but rather like instead of taking that time to like think about myself, I start thinking about way too much about like what other people are doing, and that I could use that time, to focus on myself and feel better. But I haven't been able to do that, and like I feel like maybe part of me gets like jealous or like gets like overwhelmed that I have like all these friends that are going to be really successful, and then like it makes me scared that like I'm not going to be able to do that, and I'm not going to be able to perform like that like they can.
Okay. Maybe this can be also one part of your thought recording assignment. When you do feel like you are comparing yourself, or when you do hear that voice, maybe you can just take the time to record what the voice is saying, and then actually really analyze it to see if it is true. But if you can't really figure it out, then you can bring it in and we'll take a look at it. Okay. So besides your roommate, let's talk about your roommates, because earlier you had mentioned about how you feel like them giving you advice or constantly telling you that you should try to use certain methods to decrease your anxiety, but at the same time you feel like your relationship is pretty rocky with them.
I think the reason I feel like our relationship is rocky is that maybe they become like irritated when they try to invite me to go do things, and I constantly tell them no. And if they ask me why, like they always just assume that I'm doing homework, and that is usually the case, that I am doing some kind of schoolwork. And I feel like they feel like I don't take their friendship, like I don't appreciate it as much, just because I always choose to do schoolwork over hanging out with them or like going out with them one night.
So is this an assumption, or have you actually had a conversation with them about it before?
I think a big part of it might be me assuming like these kind of things. I haven't really talked to them about it. I feel like the times that I do try to bring it up, I start to get, I feel bad and I feel guilty that I have to choose schoolwork over them, so then I just kind of avoid the situation altogether.
Okay, so maybe you consider having a talk to them to talk to a roommate.
Sure.
Before all this though, you would say that your relationship with your roommate has been pretty good?
I would say I've been living with the same 3 girls for the past 2 years now. And when we first started living together, I don't think we ran into any of these problems, but now that we're, starting to get closer to the end of the year and we all have really busy schedules, and that those 3, seem to really find the time to hang out and do things. And I guess I'm starting to feel excluded from that. And a big part of it may be because I'm focusing on schoolwork so much, but then I feel maybe they're not as supportive as I want them to be in how hard I'm working at school.
Okay, so discuss about some times when, before you felt like schoolwork took over your life, what would you and your roommates usually go out and do?
We would definitely on the weekends, go out for coffee or go get lunch together and spend the day together, doing those kind of things, or even just spending a day in watching movies and not worrying about what we need to do outside of that, but really just enjoying our social times together and making our friendship stronger. Just kind of normal stuff like that, I guess.
So it seems like you definitely enjoy hanging out with them. And it seems like you still do want to hang out with them, just like how it was.
Right.
However, there seems to be some miscommunication between you and your roommates. You think that, you have this thinking that maybe they don't want to hang out with you anymore, but maybe we should find a way of you having to communicate with them about the issue, and if possible, bring up some possible time when you guys can actually get together.
I think that's a good point. I think maybe I've just been so distracted by school that I haven't been able to take the time, and talk to them and see how maybe my being so busy and being so focused on other things is affecting their relationship with me, how they feel I treat them, I guess.
So what would you like to do to try to spend more time with them? I mean, we discussed a little bit about how time management is a big thing for schoolwork already, but if you're to try to put them into your schedule as well, do you think you will be able to do that?
I think maybe little steps even just, maybe studying together, at a local coffee shop or something like that, or going to the library together, little steps like that, and then building it into, going back to how things were, going to lunch together, having a movie night, and not always have to be worrying about what I need to be doing next in terms of school.
I think that's a great idea that you bring up, so maybe that's something you can stick with. And you don't have to do things with them every single day. I mean, you can do something once a weekend or once every 2 weeks, depending on how you decide to schedule your weeks out. So to just briefly talk about the assignments that you will be doing.
Yeah.
So we have you listed down for just learning to time management your time a little, scheduling out your week maybe, or even if you want, do it daily. Put some time in for your roommates if you can. They don't have to be on a daily basis. And then 7, do some reflection. Bring a little journal, notebook, and just kind of reflect on when you're feeling high anxiety levels, and then also record down how you're feeling after the anxiety level has gone down. And then maybe even if you would record what the voice inside of you is saying.
Sure.
And in your next session, you can bring in your assignment and we can look it over and see what areas we can work with next time.
Okay. That sounds good, yeah.
So, do you have anything else that you would like to ask me or just talk about before we end the session?
I don't think so. A lot of that is just what's immediately been on my mind as in the past couple weeks.
Okay, so, well, it was great talking to you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
so
coming
much.
in.
Yay.
Well, I've actually been having conversations with my boss, and she does weekly checkups with us just to see how we are doing, making sure that we're not stressed. But as a senior and with finals coming around, I actually think that I'm feeling a little more than just stressed, maybe even a little depressed.
Okay. What are some of the like overwhelming feelings that you've been having that make you think that you may be feeling depressed?
Well, just all the preparation for finals.
Okay.
And on top of that, I have to prepare myself for graduation. And then I think one of the big things is the after plans of graduation. What am I going to do? I mean, I'm not going into graduate school right away, so what am I going to do? That is a really big question, and I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think it has kind of put a toll on me. I am starting to feel just more tired and restless. I can't exactly concentrate as well as how I used to, and it's even affecting my work habits as well at work.
Okay. Do you find that these feelings are like how you say that they're affecting your work and like your concentration and focus and stuff like that? Do you think that's making you more like worried about the future?
I think so, because with me not being able to work as how I would normally do, I kind of think, is it even possible for me to find a potential job if I'm like already struggling now?
During these times that you're feeling, you know, a little more sad or depressed than usual, like, and you find yourself not being focused, are there certain thoughts that are going through your head, or like certain like behaviors that you find yourself doing?
Well, I tend to sleep more or nap. So if in between classes or whatever, or when I'm done, like I nap more and I sleep a little more. I don't find as much pleasure in doing activities that does not really involve with school, such as like working out. Like I used to enjoy working out, but I don't do that as much now. And just possibly going out on the weekends. Like I don't really want to go out on the weekends anymore, just because I tell myself I have so much to do. So then I end up just staying in instead. But then I get nothing done either.
Okay. Do you think there was like a certain moment in time where a lot of this started to, like, it triggered a lot of these feelings for you? Like besides just noticing like how you said like your boss is checking up on you and you like go through all that. Do you think there was a moment in time where all of this started to kind of have this downhill kind of effect on you?
I think it was actually just before spring break ended.
Okay.
Coming back, being home, you know, people started to question what I was going to plan to do, and I don't really have an answer for them. And then after having to be back from spring break, I see people having interviews lined up, and I see them having jobs right after graduation already lined up for them as well. And I kind of question, what am I doing? I mean, I'm in the process of finishing an application for a volunteer experience, but that's not as great as other people's opportunities that they have.
Sure. Do you feel like you have any is there a lot of outside support, or do you feel like there's a lack in like your family support or your friend support for you like, during these situations, like this time in your life?
I think I'd have to say that my friend support is probably a little stronger than my family support.
Okay. And why do you think that?
Well, in regards to my family, like my mom is always, she's constantly asking me what I'm gonna do. And she kind of tells me like I've been here for 4 years, I should be able to land a job. But I think what's hard for her to understand is that, you know, majoring in psychology, I can't get a job right away.
Sure.
So it's gonna take a longer time to actually land that perfect job.
Have you tried, you know, explaining that to your mom? Like, if you have, do you think she understands that, or have you kind of like avoided that confrontation with her?
I think I've avoided that confrontation. I just don't really want to be in bad terms with her, especially with all the things that's going on right now. I just really want to kind of finish school and graduate, and then maybe talk to her and explain it to her but I mean, that might not be a good time too, so I don't really know when a good time is.
Do you think you have like any kind of fear in explaining the situation to your mom? Like, is there something that you think will happen that maybe it might not necessarily happen if you try to explain that to her?
Well, I think she'll probably just yell at me
Okay.
or try to start an argument, but otherwise, I don't think she will like really understand from my perspective.
Sure. So that might be something that we could definitely focus on, having that stronger relationship and like being comfortable talking about those things with your mother. But when you say, like, other than that, you feel like your friends are very supportive in the things that you're doing, right? How do you think they feel a certain way when you don't want to go out with them, or if you like don't want to hang out with them just because like you have other things to do?
At the moment, I would hope they wouldn't, but sometimes when I am by myself, I do think that maybe they think that I'm not fun anymore, because my first 2 years here, I did enjoy going out, and I definitely always went out on the weekends when everyone wanted to, but I think for me, during this moment of time, I'm just so stressed that I don't feel like I can go out with them. And I just don't want them to think that I'm boring because I'm not.
Has there been any evidence that you think your friends might think that you are boring?
Well, there's some of them who has actually stopped asking me to do things with them. Even if it's just during the weekday to go grab lunch or get together at night.
Have you ever tried to talk to them about this?
Not really. I mean, I don't know if it's just because I don't have time or if I'm just trying to avoid conversations with them about it. I just feel like it would not make things that stressful if I just leave it alone.
Okay. I definitely don't want a lot of these, stressful, like hypothetical stressful situations, to further put stress upon you. So I think one of the biggest things that I would suggest is, maybe talking to those friends who you feel like you don't see as often, or maybe putting a time aside, to be able to express what you're feeling, and further find that support from them. But I did want to ask, what do you think would be your biggest fear coming up in like the next, while you're nearing graduation, and what to do next?
I think the biggest fear for me is probably losing these relationships that I've made. I mean, coming into college, I didn't really keep a lot of my high school friends. And then now that I'm feeling a little depressed and not wanting to really go out and feeling just overwhelmed with a lot of everything about graduating, like I don't want to lose my friends either. So I don't really know what to do, really.
Okay. Part of me feels like maybe like a good step for you is, I definitely think talking to other people about your friends and like the situation, not wanting to lose them, because I'm sure that they also, don't want to lose your friendship and the friendship that you've been making for the past 4 years here at college.
I definitely do want to learn how to, maybe like in times when I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed, learn how to use some sort of relaxed training or like something to help me relax and actually tell myself that I can do it. For example, like on the weekends when everyone's out and I decide to like not go out and try and work on my assignments, I don't ever finish my assignments or get to them. And just looking at everything on my desk sometimes can be overwhelming. So I don't know, like maybe you can help me and try to relax myself in moments like that so I can actually concentrate again.
I think in those moments where you look at your desk and you're feeling really overwhelmed about all the things that are there and all the things that are looming in the future, I think to take the time, to step away from that area, like get out of your room, go for a walk, go somewhere where it's going to be more calming for you, and, maybe think to yourself like, you're going to be able to handle everything that's coming in the future. I think another good thing will to maybe write out a schedule of things that you need to do, or like write out a list of things to kind of make things more organized. And I think in the case of maybe the desk in your room like being unorganized and being something that's really overwhelming, to be able to organize that and go piece by piece and step by step up until graduation, and then to be able to balance that with the find time for those social opportunities and not be afraid to put aside things and say like, yeah, you're going to go out and you're going to have a good time with friends.
That sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I do need to organize a little of my things. So.
Yeah, I think doing that is going to help you organize your thoughts, and maybe perhaps like getting a journal to write down those thoughts and go through the times where you're feeling maybe more sad or more tired, and like try to find times like why, and maybe there's something specific that's triggering those feelings for you. Have you ever thought about that?
Not really actually.
Okay. So I think one good assignment for you in the future is going to be to have a journal or a planner and kind of get things more organized for yourself, and not be afraid to ask for help in those kind of situations. Do you think you were comfortable asking for help in these situations? Because I know that, like you said, you're kind of afraid to confront your mother about like the kind of situation, like what your future holds for you. But do you think that there's someone else that you maybe could approach in that situation, like one of your professors or a different family member or like a really close friend?
Well, I can definitely approach my boss. I mean, if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be here. She did recommend me to come today, so.
That's good. I think, taking those thoughts of having someone, be there for you in that kind of situation is going to be something that you should remember. Because we want to avoid, you having these thoughts of, what should I do? I'm lost. Like, you've gotten to this point, and this is going to be a tough time for you, to get everything together before graduation. But I think knowing and remembering that you have that supportive person there having your back in these situations is going to be good. Mm-hmm. Another thing, as you brought up before, with those relaxation techniques, I think that's going to be really important to use too, especially if there's times where you're feeling too overwhelmed. So I think what I would recommend in those situations, that if you're feeling really stressed out and you're feeling really anxious, to take the time to take deep breaths and kind of calm yourself down, and not be afraid to take that time away and not be focused on what you're doing.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you think you want to address today?
I think that's it. Next time, do you think I can bring, if I do end up recording some things down, could we possibly go over it together if I can't really figure it out for myself?
I think next time, what I want you to do, is, during the next week, try to, write down your feelings as much as possible. Maybe make a list of things that you want to accomplish, and definitely try to pinpoint those overwhelming thoughts that you're having, the big ones, what is always looming on your mind. And when you come back, we can definitely walk through that, and maybe try to further your relaxation techniques and more things that you can do to feel better about what's going on in your life.